Welcome to the Steve Reeve Podcast with the best moments from the past week and a few things that didn't make it to air. Tuesday.
Unfortunate and dystopian AI text summary. Quickly have a bunch of messages that have come in, analyzed and summarized in less words for you so you can stay up to date on what's going on at a glance instead of actually having to delve in. But of course, that does take away the human aspect of the actual communication, which might be the reason for why one person has shared what it looks like when that AI summary of texts is summarizing you getting broken up with. The summary from Apple about the recent text that he received from his significant other read, and I quote, "No longer in a relationship, semicolon, wants belongings from the apartment." And he goes on to say, yes, this was real. Yes, it happened yesterday. Yes, it was my birthday. There's a lot of things stacking up here to make me raise an eyebrow and go, well, I don't know. But I do know that sounds like exactly par for the course for how AI umbilical cord attachment is going for people so far. Maybe we're coming through some sort of high-tech, AI-enabled, autonomous, robotic sort of thing. I mean, weirder things have happened. We do get those things to clean up our dirt for us. Robot vacuums, very, very common. But what happens when they get hacked? When the eyes of a stranger are looking through that little camera, chasing your pets around? Yes, this happened specifically for the D-Bot X2 Omni robot, and the company that's behind it, Ecovacs, they do say that they're aware and they're working on the solution to the problem. Great. Sounds good. I've got faith. Sure. But it's not great when these things are able to be commandeered and chase your pets around, or in some cases, as was happening, a little, they've got the drop-in speaker, so you can speak through them. People have been using that to just add in recordings of racial slurs and horrible things being said. Fantastic. Not a dystopian view of the world going on at all. But, it's still cool to have your floors cleaned up for you, so I get it. It's just any time that there's one of these things or like a pet webcam or anything like that, if they've got the extra added security, 2-factor authentication, 3 passwords to get in, honestly, just do it.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
It's time for Cruz Music News with Steve Reeve.
We've got a few stories to get into, including a couple that are really about potential activity in the music industry. Starting off with Fleetwood Mac, and specifically Stevie Nicks. She was on Saturday Night Live over the weekend, first time appearing there in 41 years. That's a long time. She performed The Lighthouse, she performed Edge of 17, but that in addition to people paying a lot of attention to new official social media accounts for the band Fleetwood Mac, are thinking that there might be something new coming in the future. Possibly a tour, possibly new music. Wait and see. Now, Roger Taylor of Queen has also been teasing something new to be coming. Says new Queen music could be arriving after a 30-year hiatus, not from touring, but at least from being in the studio. They say, we feel like we have some good material, so why not? Absolutely, why not? And there's an unheard collection of Jimi Hendrix recordings that are on auction right now. They'll be held in London on November 15th, these auction block occasions. Prop Store is the organization that's behind it, but really the key thing that anybody interested in these recordings needs to know is that you will only ever be able to listen to them if you win. No ability to share them after that fact whatsoever.
Wednesday.
Yesterday, with a cool group of kids over at Father Merck, I was asked to come in and talk to Ms. Whalen's public speaking class, an elective that I thought, I do that for a living. I do that occasionally, every once in a while. I was able to talk about a little bit of the history, a little bit of the technique, a little bit of the fun that can be had, some of the not so fun parts that come along with it. And I think that we all together did have fun for the hour that we spent together. And I thought, hey, why don't I get you guys in the class to pick a song? It was a whole vote, a whole situation to try and narrow it down by, what are we going to do for artists? Then of those artists, what do we have for the songs in the library? What can we play? And eventually it narrowed it down to a very specific pick that everybody was very happy about. So, let's let them introduce it.
We are Miss Haley's public speaking class. This is Master
diving in. Glenn Matlock, a huge star. I mean, he was in the Sex Pistols. He was a bassist in Blondie, and hung out with the likes of Iggy Pop, who we just heard. And in a new story that he told on Never Mind the Buzzcocks, which if you haven't heard about is just a British game show, a music quiz show. The actual episode is supposed to air tonight. That features a clip that was shared to tease it, where he tells a story after watching a show or taking in an artist. Iggy Pop, as well as him, decided they would go to another club in New York City way back in the 70s, 80s. David Bowie coming along with them, and they get into Bowie's car going down Madison Avenue. Says he's sitting on David Bowie's knee because there's nowhere to sit, and notices that instead of vanity mirrors that might be there for vanity or other purposes, it was the 70s and 80s, that there were actually paintings. And he noticed, he said, that one's a Picasso, and that one's a Matisse, isn't it? I said, wow, you've got these just in your car? Well, you're a flash bleep. And David Bowie responds, yeah, I guess I am. What a fascinating night to be out. Van Halen, they, of course, went through lineup changes. David Lee Roth was with the band and then wasn't with the band, and we got the Red Rocker himself, Sammy Hagar, instead, but there were other names that were on the list before that happened. Alex Van Halen reveals in the first interview that he's had since his brother died in 2020, he's got a new memoir coming out called Brothers that he's trying to promote. He says that it was actually Ozzy Osbourne who was first tipped to be the star of the band, the front man. Chris Cornell and Joe Satriani also on the list before they finally found Hagar.
Hey Alexa, play the Steve Reeve podcast.
Been watching a lot of horror movies, and it's one that I've seen many times, but it wasn't actually on the list for this year. Just a hugely famous movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, how many remakes and spin-off sequels, prequels have they made? There's just been a ton. TV shows, movies, video games, all of it. But when it first came out, it was very much being marketed as a real story turned to a Hollywood horror, dramatized for your entertainment. But was it based on a true story? Was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a real thing? Was Leatherface a real person? Not really. The truth is not really, but here's the asterisk part. There was a real-life serial killer whose activities did loosely inspire the character of Leatherface, serial killer named Ed Gein, I think? Gein? Gein. I don't know how you pronounce it, but regardless, that's not even the only movie or franchise that was inspired by this creep's activities. A couple of other iconic movies include Psycho, as well as The Silence of the Lambs, meaning that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like right in the middle of all of that. Creepy stuff. Halfway to Halloween through October. How's the Halloween stash doing? The stash that you bought knowing full well that it was way too early before the 31st and that you'd need to restock for the actual shell out. That candy in our house has actually been lasting. And I had a moment last night. I thought we were actually being pretty impressive with our restraint. I legitimately had a moment where I thought, oh, good for us. But then I realized that the only reason that we haven't been dwindling down the candy cachet, well, it's because we haven't finished the Thanksgiving pie rations yet. I swear that bowl of candy is just sweating out high fructose corn syrup, watching the last few slices of apple pie slowly disappear day after day, and then it will be the candy's turn once more.
If you eat too much, you'll have nightmares.
Oh, yeah. Everybody in the family's gonna have a bad nightmare tonight.
Oh, yeah. 3 bad nightmares.
I'd like to see that.
Thursday.
I'm joined by Christina Mead with the Chamber of Commerce here in Fort McMurray, Marketing and Communications Manager, and I'm sure a very busy time for you right now. So thank you for taking the time to come and visit. It's Business Awards season again. It's coming up on the 24th.
Yes, it is.
Holy cow.
We are so excited. We can't wait for the event.
There's a lot of work that's being done. I mean, it's a year-long labor of love, as we've heard from the Chamber many times, but Cano Theater and Arts Center is going to be the venue once again, and more than just a here's your award. This person won this. Isn't that great? It's an entertainment evening.
It is. We do our best to make it super exciting. And again, like you said, sometimes awards shows can be a little bit dry and not so fun. The way that we try to set the show up is it's very entertaining. There's lots of different local artists, lots of local talent that comes and definitely keeps it lively throughout the entire show. Of course, we have amazing food as well that is served at the start there, and then amazing cocktails all night long. That's
fantastic. All part of, a small business week. That's another opportunity to, get amongst, rub elbows.
Exactly. Lots of networking is definitely, it's primed for networking for sure.
Tickets on sale now. What is the supply like? Is it, is it urgent?
Still have tickets, but we are running low.
Okay.
So definitely, if it's a night you want to attend, which I highly recommend, you're going to want to pop over and pick your tickets up really quickly here. You can get them on our website, fortmcmurraychamber.ca/business awards, and you can grab your tickets there.
People have made memories, made connections, made friends.
100%.
And that's the whole point, right?
Exactly. It's a beautiful location. I mean, Keanu Theater is gorgeous. Then you add all of the fun and the event itself. It's so fun because it's a night that you can actually get dressed up and you get to go out on the town, have that real nice event where you're dressed up and enjoy yourself.
Before you put on the costumes for the rest of the weekend, right?
Exactly.
come dressed as yourself or, or whatever.
Whatever you'd like.
But Fort McMurray Chamber of Commerce Business Awards, October 24th. We talk about it for a full year, but then suddenly it's like, wow, it's coming. It's here.
Yes, it is definitely a big event. We have 13 categories, and then, of course, the 3 additional People's Choice categories. So lots to kind of keep you on your toes throughout the evening. So
grab your tickets if you're interested in all that. It's going to be a big event, big evening. FortMcMurrayChamber.ca/business awards. Thank you so much for hanging out, Christina. Awkward but important. A proof of concept put together by the University of Science and Technology of China. The idea of a bendable robotic finger that is extremely pressure sensitive and can figure out exactly what it needs to figure out instead of the old time honored tradition of just using a regular old finger. It's been used by professionals in medicine to take pulses, to check for lumps in tissue, and of course for the occasional medical insertion to check that you're okay. It's such an important thing. As you get older, you gotta have your prostate checked. Maybe by a human for now, but it could be a robot in the future. Pair that with, I think, 5 years ago, there was the advent of now not for the public use, you're not going to be able to interact with it, but for people who are training to give these such exams, an interactive robotic butt. Well, you put those together, I think you've got a hilarious story on your hands. Ozzy Osbourne reacting to a violent moment. The former guitarist for his solo act, a man named Jake E. Lee, was struck by several bullets in Los Angeles just this week, in Las Vegas, rather, but expected to make a full recovery. Thankfully, Ozzy Osbourne has, of course, made his statement saying it's senseless and that he hasn't even seen or heard from Jake E. Lee in 37 years. However, he still wishes him well and wants to denounce the violence and gun violence that is in America. And sadly, another sad story, a tragedy that has taken the life of 31-year-old Liam Payne, formerly of the boy band One Direction. You don't get to hear them too often on our airwaves, but the music world, is reacting and reeling from the loss of life. He apparently fell from a balcony at a hotel in Buenos Aires, falling 13 or 14 meters and suffering from his injuries.
Thanks for listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
Always a treat to be joined by Michelle from the Wood Buffalo Food Bank Association because it's Halloween time, and I know that you are a Halloween all-year kind of person, and there's a big old fundraiser that's happening once again that people can enjoy with the family. What's going on?
Absolutely. I am a Halloween all-year-long kind of person. So this year we're actually bringing back the Haunting of Fort McMurray presented by Coverall.
Yeah.
But we have some pretty new and exciting things that we've decided to do this year. So one of the things that we were told last year was they got really tired of waiting in lines. Some people waited in line for about an hour and a half.
Different kind of scary.
Yeah. So we've mediated that by actually opening up we're calling it our witching hour. So
Okay.
prior to the haunted house, you can go and actually go right into the building. You're going to get a time that's for you. And prior to that, you can have something to eat, something to drink. There's cocktails, mocktails. There's all sorts of like fun goodies. And then, so you won't be standing in a lineup at all. So we have a 32,000 square foot building that we've acquired for this.
That's what I was going to ask. It's in a different spot. Still
Yes.
downtown, but different
Still
spot.
downtown. And then in the basement is our haunted house. So if you're already scared of basements,
Yeah.
this is going to be
The
terrifying.
deeper you go, the scarier it gets. So it's $10 at the door once again, and it kicks off on Friday, right?
Yep. So the 18th, 19th, 20th, we will stay open as long as there's people that are wanting to come through.
Very cool, yeah.
But so it opens every day at 6.
And then so there's the next weekend as well. So it kicks off again on the Friday on the 25th for another several days. But I also see on the 26th there's a special something going on.
We decided that we can also throw a heck of a party.
Yeah.
So we have a lineup of some local DJs, as well as we're bringing in a DJ from Vegas. And along with your tickets for Rave in the Grave, you also get a free buffet all night long, and as well as a welcome drink. So we really are trying to like get as much bang for your buck.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of places where you can just go and get an entire experience like that for under $100.
There's a lot of different ways to show off your Halloween costume, but this is the only one that's got a full haunted house experience as part of it as
That's
well.
true, yeah.
And so the Rave in the Grave is just going to be on the 26th, but a whole host of days for the haunting of Fort McMurray
That's
itself. So we did talk about how it was downtown. Where can people find it? Where do people go?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's 9911 McDonald Avenue. It also says the Borealis building right on the building.
People will find their way to it. Just follow the screams, right?
Absolutely.
And if you want to find out more, of course, there's a big event that's already put onto Facebook and everything, the Haunting of Fort McMurray for 2024. Again, Rave in the Grave added for this year.
If you went to last year's, I guarantee this one is going to be beyond your expectations. It is a completely immersive haunted house.
I'll be checking it out as soon as I can. First thing.
Yeah?
Yeah. Thanks for coming in and telling us all the details. Again, the Haunting of Fort McMurray plus Rave in the Grave starting this Friday and going with specific dates until the end of the month. So thank you so much, Michelle.
Thanks,
and of
Steve.
course, as always, year round, we love to support the Wood Buffalo Food Bank Association. So happy to do more of that. It's horror movie time. Every day for this month, it's been part of the horror movie month-long marathon for me. I actually, admittedly, did not have time for yesterday's movie. I'm behind now, so I got to add that in, but I am not missing today's pick for anything or anyone, especially because it is my significant other's birthday today, and I asked her, which horror movie do you want on your birthday? She said, Shaun of the Dead. And it is also, it just happens to be the 20th anniversary of that movie coming out. I am such a huge fan of this movie, such a huge fan of the cast, and the director, Edgar Wright, who's behind it. This is sort of the start of the so-called Cornetto trilogy, alongside Hot Fuzz, as well as The End of the World, or The World's End, whatever it's called. They're all great. And this one started it all, blew us away with the cinematography, the action shots for the mundane things like getting ready for the day, the whole "you've got red on you" of it. It's such a great movie and worth a watch again and every year until the 40th anniversary comes around.
Friday.
Not sure exactly what group of workers, but workers on average saving an hour of work each day thanks to the advent of AI and the adoption in their workplace. Sounds like a study conducted by AI. Can't fool me. To be specific, it's the Global Workforce of the Future survey. 35,000 workers in 27 different economies. And apparently, on average, out of those results, that's where they get that hour a day saved. Though 20% of people saying that it was as many as 2 hours a day, 5% saying 3 to 4 hours a day. It must be nice. I don't know what you're doing with the rest of that time. But that sounds great, especially if it allows for more strategic or more even creative work to take the place of those hours so that, it's not just lost hours at work, it's more efficient hours at work. These sound like good things. I'm just worried about a real loss of hours at work, meaning like all of them. You're in a pretty big league when you're only one of two in recorded history. The man with 3 penises is only the second case on record, and he wasn't even aware of it. This is one of the most bizarre stories from the week, and to be perfectly clinical about it, a University of Birmingham, UK group of researchers discovered the extra appendages after the man in question had died at the age of 78 and donated his body to science. I know, what a twist. You weren't expecting that. And only they weren't appendages, at least not the additional 2. They were both apparently developed beneath the skin. So it is possible, through his nearly 8 decades of life, that he had no idea. It's possible he had zero clue. Or maybe that's why he donated his body to science. Well, I never figured out what was going on down there, but maybe somebody will. Wild.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
Oasis in the news again. When aren't they? But it's because Liam Gallagher has gone on record now saying that there's not going to be a documentary about this reunion with his brother and with a new formation of the full band Oasis for their Live 95 tour that has just been selling out all over the place for next year. He says there's been enough said about this band. I'm sure a few more things will be said in due time. And a new movie coming out, releasing in theaters today, Smile 2, sequel to, of course, Smile, has unlikely musical inspirations. People are going to be surprised by. Director explaining that tragic musicians kind of filled his head as he was trying to come up with the story, including Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, the so-called 27 Club. But not only, also Whitney Houston, and even some of the media coverage of Britney Spears throughout her career was tapped by the director Parker Finn to put the story of Smile 2 together. Very intriguing. And Peter Dinklage says that he used to make music and play live at a period in his life when he was very much younger and didn't want to be an actor, didn't want to do commercials and things that were available to him. He said he wanted to do plays downtown for no money and was in a Beastie Boys ripoff band. Punk band. He said it was a lot of fun. It was a couple years. He got a cool scar on his temple, and he wanted to confirm that, well, head wounds, they do bleed a lot, as he learned from personal experience. A visceral experience, if you want to see Peter Dinklage performing music live.
Prove him wrong with the right answer. But you gotta be quick. It's time for Impossible Trivia with Steve Reeve.
Presented by JHG Automotive. Through the month of October, we have our contestant for today waiting on the phone line. Alan, you ready to go? You feeling smart?
Well, I'm just getting out of work, so I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll test the memory. And
we'll try it.
For $100 on the line. Sound good?
All right.
I'll give it to you right now. The question, according to a poll, Alan, nearly half of people would change this about the place that they work.
What do you think? Longer break?
I mean, yeah, I mean, that would be nice. The specific thing about half of people would change, according to this poll, is the coffee.
Oh, God. That makes sense, actually, because our coffee sucks.
Transmission over. Want more Steve? New podcast episodes happen every Friday, or just tune into the Steve Reeve Show. Weekday mornings starting at 5:30 a.m. on 100.5 Cruz FM.